Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to today's event. I'm Jason Gumpert from msdynamicsworld.com, and I'm pleased to welcome you to today's session all about how to upgrade from Dynamics AX to Dynamics 365. We have three members of the team from Stoneridge Software on the line today to present to you. We do want to keep today's event interactive, and just a couple of notes on that. First, we do have a couple poll questions that we're going to start off with. I'm going to just kick that off now. We'll show the results in a couple minutes. Please do fill that out. It'll give our presenters a better idea of your own interests and your own experiences. We also welcome questions today. Look for the Q&A block to the right of the main presentation area to enter your questions at any time. Our presenters will be leaving time at the end to answer those. So I see some answers coming in for the poll. That's great. And we will keep that open as we really get started here. I'm going to hand things off to Ron Rudd to get us started. So Ron, welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Jason, and thanks everyone for joining us this afternoon. My name is Ron Rudd, and I am the Enterprise Sales Director. But we're going to, and I've got Cody Marshall joining me as well. Today's agenda is really going to be covering 5 areas. First, we'll do a quick intro on Stoneridge, why to upgrade. And I know that the topic today was when and how, but I think there's an argument here that we really need to understand why first before we look at when to upgrade. And then Cody will be really going into getting it done. How do we do this? What needs to be done? The things that you need to consider and how to prepare your team. So with that, again, Cody Marshall is joining us. Just a little background on Cody. He's actually one of the founders of the company. He actually spent about 5 years as a field support specialist at Microsoft, along with the 2 other founders. The thing that's kind of fun about this is that he has a lot of experience working in the AX space for many years, and he brought up that knowledge with him to the company. I've been with the company for just a little over 1.5 years, but I've been in the Microsoft space for more than 20 years. In fact, I spent 13 years as a business owner. I had a practice, started with a NAV, the Navision software solution at that time, before coming back into the Microsoft space 1.5 years ago. So I've really enjoyed that experience. I've had a lot of fun, and I'm really excited to be back in this space because I think it's an exciting place to be. So a little bit about Stoneridge and who we are. As I mentioned, we've been, I guess I didn't mention, we've been around for just about 5.5 years. The company was started by 3 founders, Cody Marshall, Becky Newell, and Eric Newell. They were working, the 3 of them, in a kitchen in Eric and Becky's house at the time, 5.5 years ago. And now today we have 120 employees in 3 offices. It's been some pretty impressive growth, and we're excited by that. I think we're proud of the fact that we've grown that fast, and I think the reason I'd love to say is really because of fantastic salesmanship, but it's really not. It's we've been very fortunate to have some of the best working for us, and we've created an environment at Stoneridge where we look to attract and retain the best of the best, and by virtue of that, we're able to offer some of the best services, and I think that's one of the reasons why we've had so many clients that have chosen Stoneridge for their support. So you can take a look at some of the awards again, and I won't talk too much more about this, but some of the things I think that distinguish us is that we've been recognized. We're here in Minnesota. We do have offices in Fargo as well, so we have 3 offices, 2 in Minnesota and 1 in Fargo. But we've been recognized as one of the 100 best companies to work for 4 out of the last 5 years, and in fact in 2015 we were the voted #1 company to work for in our range. So we're really proud of that, but I think a lot of that really again goes to as a testament to the people that work here, and that translates to the things that we do for our clients as well. So as I mentioned when we started, the topic today was really about when to upgrade and how to upgrade. But I think what you really need to do first is understand why to upgrade. And in order to do that, I think it's important to recognize what are the key differentiators when you start looking at solutions like D365 as it compares to AX. Some people would question that D365 for enterprise is really just AX with a new paint job, but it's actually a lot more. The main differentiators that you see in D365 is it's a completely web and cloud-based solution, whereas AX is primarily a desktop application with some web and mobile app add-on components. The new version provides a cloud-based solution that really can be used anywhere without the large infrastructure footprint that you would typically have with AX, or if you were to try to do in an on-premise environment with D365. It also has some very tight integration into the D365 family of products like CRM, Office, Excel, and so forth. I mean, there's really limitless capabilities in a much more elegant manner to capture information and integrate all of that into one full enterprise solution. So it's really done a great job of providing tools that just weren't really available in the AX environment before. So when you start looking at the differences, some of those that you could really see is like it's a web-based login. So D365 apps, allow you no longer have to load that up on a computer. You can actually simply go to a web browser and you're in, provided you got the credentials for it. So it provides a lot more accessibility and mobility than you would traditionally have in an AX environment. There's an entirely new interface. They essentially did a major facelift to 2012, and really it's designed now to aim at really improving the user experience and encouraging more collaboration with others. And you'll see that a little bit more as we go further into the webinar today. There's more integration capability now than ever before, so you can really extend this out to other platforms, especially with the Power BI. You can really unlock data from a number of different sources, and it integrates seamlessly with the other Microsoft Cloud products, like I said earlier, the Office 365 and Dynamics Sales, or formerly CRM apps. There's a lot more updates now coming out, and what I mean by that is it's really, because it's a cloud-based instance, there's really no need to wait for new versions to be released to get the latest features and updates. New development and fixes are rolled out frequently for D365, and all you really need to do is accept them and you're off. There's a lot more flexibility as well. The D365's new licensing model now really means users can save money on user and device licenses, but they can improve the flexibility of that pricing model. It also opens up doors for more businesses, that would utilize the Dynamics capabilities. They've introduced a really fantastic new workspace capability now. Role centers was what was really been replaced now with workspaces. And this allows really multiple aspects and features of D365 to be used simultaneously via what would really be a customized dashboard. The workspace simplifies the user experience, and it helps to make even new and inexperienced users much more productive. And you'll see that again as we go further into the webinar today. They've improved the search capabilities. It actually makes it much easier to find information no matter where it is in the system. They've increased the integration with Excel, enables users to really utilize spreadsheets to enter and update and delete demand and forecasts and other things within the D365 solution. And you can also export all of that information out into Excel and then also import it back in once you've completed your tasks. So there's a lot of tools there. And then lastly, I think one of the key importance here new acquisitions was that Microsoft acquired LinkedIn. And so they're really going to leverage that piece of technology now with the HR department, so you can really incorporate information from employees' LinkedIn profiles into their own company files or profiles and records. So there's a lot of really exciting new stuff that's happening there. Some of them that I'd like to really call out, though, are what I see as being some of the amazing new tools is embedded Power BI. And this really it's possible now to really create and embed highly intuitive business reports and visualizations into the D365 interface. So one can really unlock important data and more elegantly than before leverage that data against reports that they would traditionally have to dig through via just data on paper. So it gives us a much more elegant environment, as you can see from the screenshot there. Also within the app, we've got amazing tools in the Azure cloud. Machine learning, artificial intelligence, allows you to make better decisions on any scale when it matters. There's also the task recorder. This is actually, I think, one of the cooler utilities within the application. This literally has changed the user experience very, very dramatically, and it allows people to really appreciate what the product is capable of doing by following the processes. It literally will capture fields and take you through step by step all the processes that are specific to whatever role they're working in. Some of the other tools that you're going to see in there is the custom code extensions. This, I think, is really exciting because this allows you to really extend the product, develop solutions on top of D365 without impacting the core code of the application. So adding functionality is really much easier, and it won't hamper any future upgrades to the core code. The common data service is also new to the application, and one that we're excited to see because historically we've had to use middleware software solutions to integrate across different platforms, and now this allows us to really manage and store data in the apps that you've developed, and then create really powerful apps and also just move this data back and forth in a much more elegant manner, in a very seamless manner. So then the question now, if you really understand the whys, and understanding and appreciating some of the capabilities, then we can start really talking about when to upgrade and then what to consider. So once you really understand that, then you can, choose to move forward. But some of the things you really need to think about if you're going to do an upgrade is you want to consider timeline. How long will it take will the upgrade take? Who needs to participate in an upgrade? And you need to make a commitment to that. You need to understand who are the business process owners and who are the subject matter experts and who's going to be the PM on this, and do we have executive support? And do we have someone that, from the executive team that's going to be sponsoring that? And are they really committed to the project? And what's their availability? We need to look at the timelines. Are they going to be, are a number of the key people going to be out for periods of time? Those obviously are going to impact timelines. Do you need to backfill some of those positions? You just need to make sure that you've really dedicated the appropriate resources before you jump into a project like this. And it's one of the things that we really like to point out to our clients to help them understand and appreciate that those are the things that are really important to them. So when you start thinking about that, I think one of the things you have to understand too is where you're at on the current versions. And I haven't had a chance to look at the poll yet, but if you're running on 2009, it's a product that's already expired in terms of mainstream support and extended support, and we'll talk about that, the differences between those in just a minute. But we're looking at 2012. That will be expiring on mainstream support here in October, and then the extended support in 2021. So you do nothing urgent, but you will need to do something soon. So, okay, give me just a minute, sir. All right. Sorry, I'm in a conference room at Microsoft, and we just got, apparently they put me into a room that's supposed to be used by someone else. So I'm just going to quickly wrap up here. The one thing I do want to point out to you that I think is really critical, if anyone is really thinking about upgrading to The D365 software solutions, there are transition pricing discounts that are available to you through November 1st of 2019. So as long as you're under support, you should have the ability to leverage those discounts, and maybe things that you want to consider if you're going to be looking at D365. I think it's pretty compelling. All right. I am going to hand this off to Cody now. I apologize. I was going to go through one more slide, but I'm in a room here that is being shared, unfortunately, by someone else from Microsoft, so I apologize for the abrupt end. But I'll be happy to answer questions. I'm just going to step into a different room. Thanks so much. Cody?
Very good. Thank you, Ron. So Ron covered some of the why and the when, both with the carrot of the cool stuff that is in Dynamics 365, along with the stick there at the end in terms of support of your current versions. So let's dig into some of the work effort that is in front of you here and how to get there, how to perform the upgrade. So at a high level, I'll start with what are the steps at a very high level involved with the upgrade. And the first one really cannot overlook this. It'd be easy to overlook it, but some very important things here to do with analysis and scoping. So even if your goal is a straight technical upgrade, there are a few considerations and potential surprises. So in a moment here, I'll cover that in a little bit more detail. Next, I want to think about some cleanup. So upgrade is a natural time to think about kind of a fresh start, so to speak. So there are some cleanup activities and things and tools to consider. Again, I'll cover that in a moment. And then where the rubber really hits the road is the code and data upgrades. So I will do a little bit of a deeper dive into upgrade path availability, some of the tools and tips to get that work done. Next is process design. So you may think you have zero process design if it's a purely technical upgrade, if there are no process improvements you're looking for or no impact or change, but more than likely there's going to be some of that. So we'll cover that in a little bit. There is some variability with timing on process design. So I've got it kind of pegged at the end, but we'll talk a little bit about some of the other considerations there. Where that might change. And then finally the coveted deploy. So I won't cover that in much detail, but that's the end game goal. So digging into analysis and scoping a little bit, the first portion of analysis and scoping relates to your business process. So at Stone Ridge, we like to go through an exercise that we call the Enterprise Process Review, or you may hear us refer to it as the EPR. The primary output of the Enterprise Process Review activity is effectively just a list of your business processes and some narrative. We call it a process catalog or a process library. So the intent of the process review activity, or just the analysis activity that you may choose to perform, is to get a good handle on today's usage. What are the business processes in your business today that are being run through Dynamics AX? So ideally, you'd also take the business processes that are not leveraging Dynamics AX today and catalog those as well. With all of the investments that Microsoft has made in feature set and functionality, it would be good to take a look at what are the processes that you could potentially bring into the Dynamics fold. More than likely there's some new functionality that you could leverage and just get more ROI, potentially eliminate other third-party systems that you're using. So as you work your way through the business process analysis or during the enterprise process review, you really want to look for what are the areas where your business stakeholders or your subject matter experts maybe are indicating some inefficiency today, and whether it be general complaints or just, if there are some opportunities for improvement that those folks in the business are telling you that are there, the upgrade may be a really good time to dig into those and resolve those issues. You also want to basically take that list of processes and cross-reference system changes. So what's new in the new version that we need to take a look at, and what's changed, what's been deprecated. And this can be kind of a challenge to do. So Microsoft does release some really good content on new, changed, or deprecated features. But one of the challenges with that content is that if you're coming from AX 2009, for example, you're going to have to go through a lot of different versions of those new, changed, and deprecated release notes that they provide. There's not quite a one single central authority where you can go and find all of what's new between your version of AX 2009 and the very most recent platform update in Dynamics 365. So ideally you'd have an experienced expert involved, your partner or a consultant that really knows at a detailed level what the new functionality is and how you'll be impacted. Microsoft does, as part of the upgrade tool set that they provide, there's an analysis tool. We'll talk about it in a little more detail in a little bit here. But at the very least, the tool does identify deprecated features and in some instances changed features based on what it sees in your environment as you're going through the upgrade analysis tool. Virtual Company is one example I'll call out. So it's deprecated. The Microsoft toolset actually sees that you're using that, lets you know that that's a conflict, and at least highlights some of those. But it's not going to catch everything, so I want to make sure you're aware of that. So one thing I do want to call out, it's going to be a recurring theme here. LCS, Lifecycle Services, is a tool set that Microsoft has provided, and it's really going to be central and core to your upgrade and to your life after the upgrade. And as you are going through the business process analysis part of this activity, I'd encourage you to get out in front of LCS, look at what they've provided in their business process modeler. Basically, they're providing a very nice tool set for you to organize your business processes. And while you're going through the activity, you might as well embrace the LCS component of that right out of the chute. The next major portion of the analysis and scoping phase is a code review. So at Stone Ridge, we have built a tool that really just kicks out a report of what's in there. How many custom objects do you have? What objects are they that are customized? How many models do we have? What layers are they in? What ISVs are in there? More than likely to find some Easter eggs in there, some surprises, and I'll talk about cleanup in a little bit there, but you really want to start with what do we have in there. One of the things that our tool does as well, and Microsoft, some of Microsoft's tooling does this as well, just to give you an idea of what's it going to take to upgrade those custom objects that we have. So what we do is we look at, based on the object type and the number of customized objects of that type, we kind of kick out, we know based on our experience how long it's going to take to upgrade that. So that's one thing you'll want to probably dig into and get a handle up front on the overall work effort for those upgrading those custom objects. So some of the important reasons to do this. So it will inform your cleanup needs. Again, I'll cover that in just a moment. You may have forgotten what's been customized, and that's very easy to do. I mean, this is the environment you're used to. You may even have what I call third generation people involved with the project. They didn't know we customized it during the implementation. So this analysis then can be compared to the process list and really can help facilitate some of the questioning you might have about, do we still need this customization? So for example, in the 2009 environment, you may have built a custom positive pay feature, for example, because it didn't exist as native functionality when you implemented the product. Well, now, if you can cross-reference, hey, we've got a custom feature here, with your business processes, you may determine that the native capability now, which has been brought to the table, positive pay is now a native feature. You may not want to do the work of upgrading your existing positive pay custom feature. So it's important to take that kind of download, so to speak, of what's in there versus those business processes and really figure out what you do and do not want to carry forward. Same goes for ISVs. So you may determine that an ISV that you have has been replaced by native functionality and decide not to bring it forward. Additionally, just having taken stock of the ISVs that you have in place, this is a good time to reach out to those ISVs and make sure that they have a version of their product that is compatible with Dynamics 365. Because if they don't, time to do some alternative planning. Again, fold that into your business process concepting. Okay, so that's some of the analysis and scoping. We'll do a brief touch on some of the housekeeping or cleanup as I referred to it earlier. So Microsoft has a tool, again it's in LCS, Lifecycle Services, that will recommend some data cleanup for you. So basically going to be looking for database size reduction. It also highlights for you some SQL configurations that you'll want to make or change to optimize the actual processing time of the upgrade itself. And it will also highlight for you some other compatibility challenges. So want to make sure to get out in front of that so you're not early. Run that tool to make sure you're understanding total body of work in front of you. Second thing that we like to recommend and perform is just some code cleanup. Basically, you want to merge layers and get down to one layer, one model as much as possible and as much as makes sense. You might be surprised to find where code exists, depending on how tightly you conform to best practices during any development effort that you did. Final cleanup, just from a data cleanup perspective, so in addition to the Microsoft tool recommendations, this would be a good time to think about if you've got some deduplication, for example, or if you've got some old data, this is a good time to do some purging and archiving. So you may not want to carry forward volumes of data that you don't need in the upgrade system. So this is both from the perspective of having a clean start, but also if you've got huge amounts of data, that can impact some of the processing time and time to getting the upgrade completed. Next, just want to talk through the upgrade tools, basically, that are available or that Microsoft is providing. So I've got a table on the screen there that gives you a pretty quick and brief overview of it. So for AX 2009, the data upgrade that's available is limited. And what does that mean? So basically, from a technology standpoint, Microsoft has taken the data import-export framework that was introduced in AX 2012 and backported that. And so from a technology standpoint, you're using the data import-export framework to extract data from your AX 2009 environment into a file format, Excel or CSV. And then the new migration utility then is being used to put that data into the new format, which is data packages. And then it's using the new framework in Dynamics 365 to bring that data in. So that's kind of from a technology standpoint. And why are we calling it limited? Basically, the recommendation is to limit this to entities. So customers, vendors, etc. Transactional data is possible, but not recommended. So again, all of what I'm talking about there, we're talking about the limitations for Dynamics AX 2009 data upgrades. From a code upgrade perspective, in AX 2009, the utility is not available. So there's no service that Microsoft is providing to upgrade your custom code from AX 2009 to Dynamics 365. You could technically do the 2-hop upgrade and take your AX 2009 custom code, upgrade that to AX 2012, and then upgrade from AX 2012 to Dynamics 365. Okay, from an AX 2012 perspective, the data upgrade is available. So there's a data upgrade service provided that is a full data upgrade. And also the code upgrade is available. So full code upgrade available from AX 2012 to Dynamics 365. Just trying to check the Q&A to make sure I see we've got a question. Maybe Tammy, I'll take that one towards the end. You're okay with that? All right, so I'm not going to cover a detailed tactical review of using the code upgrade tool, but I do want to provide just kind of an overview of what's available. So first of all, I want to mention, and Ron briefly touched on it earlier, but in Dynamics 365, Microsoft is taking a more agile approach to updates. So you'll see more frequent updates released by Microsoft for Dynamics 365. Because of this, they've introduced a less intrusive customization model called extensions. So this is an entirely new development architecture provided in Dynamics 365. So as it relates to the upgrade, you've really got two options. You can do the work to upgrade to the new extensions-based model, or you can choose to use what Microsoft is calling the lift and shift model. So the lift and shift upgrade allows you to actually take your current, especially if we're talking AX 2012, and move and still be on that kind of what they call overlayering, so the layer architecture that you have in AX 2012, and move that into the Dynamics 365. So that's kind of the quick and dirty. They're calling it lift and shift. So that lift and shift is really only available on the first two platform updates in Dynamics 365. And beyond that, the platform update 3 and later actually requires the extension-based architecture. So if you want to get the upgrade done quick and abbreviate the upgrade, you can use the lift and shift, get your environment into Dynamics 365, and then do your planning as kind of a phase 2 or beyond to get into the extension-based model, so you can kind of do that work as a phase 2. So that's one option you have. I would suggest you have some additional conversation, do some detailed planning around what's best for you. Do you want to do all the work now to get to extensions, or do you want to get there quicker now, do the lift and shift, and do the extension re-architecting downstream or as kind of a phase 2 option? Again, the Lifecycle Services, or LCS, comes up. So I mention this because the tool itself is, and the upgrade itself, the code upgrade, is initiated inside of LCS. In fact, you establish your target environment inside of LCS. You upload your current model files and code base from the previous version into LCS. And that's where you can see I've got a screenshot here of the tools inside of LCS, and you see there's my code upgrade and my upgrade analysis. So it actually happens or is initiated right from within the Lifecycle Services toolset. And on the bottom right there, I've highlighted the upgrade analysis. So you've got an upgrade analysis. You can also do, when you kick off the upgrade, there's a setting there to do estimation only. So as you get in there, you can actually have it kick out an estimate of what it's going to do. So it kind of kicks out, runs through what it would do if it were doing the upgrade, and then it gives you a kick out kind of a report. It kind of lets you know what's the remaining effort. What was the upgrade service itself unable to accomplish? What's the work effort in front of you? So that's kind of a nice tool that Microsoft has there. Next up, I'll do just a quick overview of the data upgrade. So again, in LCS, you will be establishing the target environment. Then effectively, you're going to take a backup of your database and restore that into the target. You will run an upgrade package. So in LCS, there's an asset library. And you'll go into that asset library, and for each basically version or platform update in Dynamics 365, they provide this upgrade package. So you've got to get that package, know which version your target is on, and you basically run that upgrade package. And it's going to go and it's going to do the work to upgrade the data. And of course, it kicks out an error log, so to speak, or a report that kind of allows you to work through what those errors are. And that's an iterative process then to address those errors and upgrade as necessary based on that, the results. All right, so next I'll talk a little bit about process design. So logically, you'd get through the code and the data upgrades and then have a well-established environment before you get into any process redesign or new feature implementation. However, you can get some of that started early and do some multi-threading, so to speak, of project work streams, especially if you're leveraging any of the new features. So if you're taking a business process that isn't currently being used or isn't leveraging Dynamics AX and you want to roll that out, so you can do some proof of concept as a separate thread from the code and data upgrade work effort that's going on. And I will mention on this front, you do have access to a trial instance of Dynamics 365. So even before you get really serious about doing the work, and you can start doing some proof of concept and evaluating new features before you get going on the project. So I want to emphasize testing. So with upgrades, there is a tendency to kind of overlook testing and say, well, we're just upgrading. And the reality is, you know, a lot of the processes, especially if you're on AX 2012 R3, a lot of the processes are going to be fairly similar. But I just want to encourage, we use a process we call joint process design, very similar to more industry standard joint application design, where basically you're taking each of those processes, stepping through, doing a proof of concept, hashing out any potential gaps or issues. You just don't want to make an assumption that it's going to transfer exactly. So we're doing this even with upgraded processes. So even if it's just a one-pass proof of concept, is it working? Work through the different use case scenarios. Just make sure you don't overlook that. The joint process design exercise that we go through is an effective testing and training activity, especially for the project team. But we do also encourage a standalone testing initiative where you build out your test scripts, use case scenarios, and make sure to work through those thoroughly in the process of the upgrade. All right, next up, preparing your team. So the process of kind of getting up to speed with Dynamics 365 is probably going to vary based on which version you're coming from. But I just kind of want to work through each of the different personas or profiles of types of people on your team or roles on your team that need to get ready, and what are the key things for those individuals. So I'll start with developers. They're one of the more highly impacted roles in the Dynamics 365 world. I mentioned it earlier. There's an entirely new architecture in place for them. It's a different world for developers in Dynamics 365. The extension-based architecture really has to change the mindset of your developers. So they're going to want to get very familiar with that new architecture. We offer a dev class or a development class quarterly, so we're doing that on Dynamics 365 now. The way we approach it, we do kind of a over the lunch hour, 2 hour a day instead of a sit down for a full block of days, and we do that over the course of a couple of weeks. Microsoft also provides training. Microsoft has a lot of content, so I'm just encouraging, get out in front of that. Developers are a key role where they've got a lot to learn. So just a couple of other things. Visual Studio is now the development environment. Team Services used to be called TFS. It's now called Visual Studio Team Services. That's another thing for them to focus in on and get up to speed. And we do cover both Visual Studio and Team Services in the workshop that we deliver. But it's just a couple areas for you to focus on in case you're doing some self-learning. Another quick note, just about the new architecture in general. If you've got developers in-house that are traditional C# developers, they are going to be more comfortable out of the chute. So those folks you have in your development environment or development team, I should say, that are familiar with C# as a specific example, will be very comfortable with the new architecture, new approach, new tools available to them. Next team I want to cover is your technical team, more infrastructure roles. So this is also a fairly big jump for them, or a big change for them. A couple of the tools I'll call out. Again, Visual Studio Team Services for all of your code deployment management, environment management. Also Azure. So Azure, there's just a few specific portions of Azure that they'll probably want to get familiar with. Azure SQL Database, virtual machine management. There are some blob storage things. So I'd encourage kind of digging into Azure for those more technical and infrastructure roles. If you have business analysts and process subject matter experts, or your end users for that matter, I mentioned it earlier, but really if you're coming from AX 2012 R3, a lot of the functionality is the same. So that's great for these people. They don't have to retrain themselves top to bottom on the functionality of the system. One of the big hurdles that we've seen is UI, or user interface, I should say, familiarity. So you do want to spend a little bit of time, get them into the system, whether it's training or just some hands-on time if you do end up taking advantage of that free trial. That's been kind of the big hurdle as we've trained our consultants, just them getting familiar with how to navigate, understanding some of the new ways of navigating the system are important to get out in front of. And then if you are looking at new processes and new feature functionality, some of them are relatively significant in nature, so those are some things you'll want to get out in front of as well. And finally, I really cannot emphasize enough LCS, so that's the Lifecycle Services tool set that Microsoft has provided. Everybody's going to be impacted, whether it be your project team and even go forward once you're operational. So a couple of things, it's maybe not as easy of a thing to learn, because you either have to stand it up and get in there and poke around, or Microsoft does provide or has release notes available for what's in LCS and what the features and functionality are. I do, at the end of the slide deck here, which will get sent out to all of you, I do have a lot of resources that I've got hyperlinks to. And as you go through the code upgrade and data upgrade, you will get a lot of exposure to LCS and the tool set available. We also provide what we call a system administrator workshop. And one of the chapters that we cover in there is LCS and all the things you need to know about LCS. We also provide a standalone LCS workshop because the system administrator workshop and content is oriented primarily towards system admins, whereas as I'm calling out here, all of your team is probably going to be impacted and will need to know LCS. So we've got a separate workshop where we cover role by role and what are the different things that these different roles need to know and understand about LCS. Okay, next up, so just want to talk about what's next steps. So we do offer a free requirements analysis, so just a deep dive, 1 hour, dig into your situation, your scenario, what do we recommend as a way forward for your unique situation. We also provide a package service upgrade assessment, which includes infrastructure and licensing preferences. So licensing is a pretty big consideration for you. So we'll help you navigate through that if you choose to do an upgrade assessment with us. Even if you don't, you're going to want to do some digging into licensing. What do you need? How do your licenses on your current perpetual agreement transition over into the new subscription world? So that's a very important one. Process improvements. So I mentioned it early on, but understanding what are the impacted processes, what are the things you should be thinking about and looking for. You just really need to be thinking about that, and that's going to really influence and inform what you do from a process standpoint. I'll just use a brief example. One of our clients decided in looking at some of the new functionality, they're coming from AX 2009, related to financial dimensions. Well, they decided that they probably want to take advantage of that. Well, that really influenced or impacted what we did with data migration. And so it's really important to dig through process improvements and do that initial assessment that I talked about earlier. Customizations and ISVs is part of the assessment. Understanding your reporting needs. Ron mentioned earlier we have Power BI in play now, embedded. We'll get into integrations and what the requirements are there, give you some insight into the new framework there. Security. So depending on which version you're coming from, AX 2009, is your security going to come over? AX 2012, what are your security requirements and how do you get that moved over? And then also data migration effort, really kind of nailing down what's the best approach for you. All right, want to learn more? Be on the lookout for workshops. So MS Dynamics World, I love it. You guys are cranking out some good content, good webinars, things of that nature. We're also working with MS Dynamic communities, the AXUG folks. We're working with them to iron out some more technical upcoming workshops where you're going to actually get some hands-on, take your code and data, give it a run through the utilities that do the analysis, really get a more detailed technical understanding of the tool set, get your hands on it. And also we're doing a lot of blogging, so as we're doing more upgrades, we're cranking out content, making sure to share what we learn with the Dynamics communities. So that's all we got. At this point, turn it over to the Q&A portion.
All right, thanks, Cody, and thanks, Ron. Let's take a few questions that have come in. Thanks for submitting those, and there's still time to submit any additional ones. Cody, would this also be a good time to just launch that concluding poll?
Sure, yeah. Great.
Okay. So we have just a couple concluding questions, just to, again, for our presenters to get a better understanding of your interests and needs. Feel free to fill that out, but let's jump into the questions here as we do that. So The first question was, can you talk more about upgrade tools for cloud versus on-prem?
Yeah, good question, Tammy. And unfortunately, as you know me a little bit. So we've been working primarily with the cloud tool set, and my assumption has been that the on-premise tool set is going to look and feel the same, because even with the on-prem, you're still dealing with LCS. You're still working within the confines of LCS. So that may be an assumption I need to double check with my tech team and with some of those folks. But on-prem, just so you know, you're still in the LCS world. So I believe you'll still be engaging with the upgrade services via LCS, and you'll still have access to those same utilities.
What % of customers choose lift and shift?
So I guess I will say we've got a couple that are very serious about the lift and shift, and we're very serious about it because of their timeline and desire to let's get there first, and then let's do the work after the fact to transition to the new extensions model. And honestly, if you're pretty lightly customized, the lift and shift might be less interesting because you've got less work to do the full transition. If you're heavily customized and you want to get to Dynamics 365, you can do the lift and shift and then do the longer term work and get to the more recent platform updates after that. So I don't have a percentage number. I would say it's less. Well, I think more people are interested in let's get the work done now. At least from our client base, that's been the trend. Although we've got one that is doing the lift and shift right now.
And as a follow-up, does the upgrade package work on custom tables?
So from a data schema standpoint, you should assume that you're going to have to do some work if you've got custom tables that will be hands-on. The utility is not going to manage all of that, and you can customize, write code on top of that to manage that.
Someone would like to know, are there any options for retail on-premises?
Good question. We are not a retail partner necessarily, so I don't have a lot of expertise in that, and that would be a question I wouldn't be able to answer for you.
Can you explain the difference in support lifecycle between mainstream and extended?
I sure can. So mainstream, quick rundown of what does mainstream support mean. Microsoft will still be responding to your requests for new features, for one. Fixes for non-security issues are still being released. Fixes for security issues are still being released. And really, you can still get a hold of MS support. So you can log a ticket, you can get them on the phone, you can still get that break fix, how-to, reactive support from Microsoft. So that's kind of mainstream. That's what it's been since you went live, since you bought the product. Extended support, Microsoft is not developing new features. Non-security updates are only available if you purchase extended support. So purchasing extended support, you basically pay a pretty sizable upfront fee just for access to extended support. Plus, if you log an issue, there is a per fix fee associated with that. So in the extended support, however, Microsoft will still be releasing security-related fixes. And then, no support, basically where AX 2009 is, you're basically on your own, or it's up to you and your partner to, if you need to patch anything, or if you find a bug that is no doubt a Microsoft bug, you'll still have to modify that or make that as basically a customization.
All right, a couple more questions here. Do you have any other updates on the progress of Dynamics 365 on-premises?
Well, it's available. Updates beyond that, no, I don't have, but I would encourage you. And I can actually, I'll add to the resource slide. If you're not familiar, Microsoft does a really good job of providing updates in their roadmap website. So I'll make sure to include that in the resources slide deck just to make sure that you've got access to at least a place to answer that question in more detail.
All right. Can you comment on Microsoft's Fast Track tools?
So in terms of their tools, Fast Track is actually more of a service, at least as far as I know it and understand it. I don't know what tools they may have released within the Fast Track, but Fast Track really is access to their experts doing workshops, or whether it be reactive or proactive kind of services that they provide.
So someone just wants to know, is Dynamics 365 a stable release, and what is its update cycle?
So is it a stable release? You know, as far as I'm concerned, the cloud version, at least, yes. I'm certain they have a stated time frame for their release cycle. I don't know it offhand, but they're cranking out relatively frequent. I think we're on a platform update 13 or something of that nature that's out. And I'll make sure, what I'll do is, I think I've already got it in my resources slide, give you a link to the Dynamics 365 Lifecycle and the releases that are available there.
How long do upgrade packages take to run on, for example, a 250 gig database?
You should expect hours, not days.
All right. And I think you may have covered this one, but what percentage of customers opt for on-premises right now?
You know, that's a good question. Microsoft might have better statistics for you on that. Microsoft is certainly encouraging and pushing more cloud, and that's been our experience, is that I think everybody has concerns about the cloud out of the chute, but the more you dig into it, the more value there is in the cloud, and that seems to be the trend that we're seeing. Again, we're just one partner. We just have one set of clients, but cloud adoption has been strong, but everybody wants to ask and talk about and discuss on-prem.
All right, great. Let me make a final call for questions here. We're about at the top of the hour. We have one more question waiting here. So are there any mobile companion apps available?
You know, the only one that I've caught wind of is a mobile timesheet app that they released in the very latest release notes that I saw. You know, the big thing, Microsoft has provided the Power Apps framework. You know, so I think they're really encouraging and pushing that direction in terms of anything mobile coming out. Also, naturally, you've got a browser-based application, and so mobile is more accessible to all users. And so that's the only mobile companion app that I've seen that's kind of called out as separate.
All right, great. Well, that concludes the Q&A. Chad, Ronald, thank you both so much for taking the time today, and thank you also to the audience for your attention and for so many questions. I think
welcome.
we can wrap up there. Cody, any final words for us?
Nope. Yeah, I appreciate everybody's time. Hopefully you found some value, and if you do have additional follow-ups and questions, I recognize quite a few of the attendees. Feel free to reach out to us, and we'll be happy to get you started on your upgrade journey.
Wonderful. Thanks again, everyone in the audience. Please do be on the lookout. We also have a quick survey after the event, just asking you about your experience today. Any other feedback you can give would be greatly appreciated. With that, we will wrap up the event. Have a great day, everybody.